Good evening, and welcome to Third Church of Christ Scientist of New York City. Let's begin with singing hymn number 73. I'll read the second verse. God is mind, and holy thought is sending. Man, his image, hears his voice. Every heart may understand his message, in his kindness may rejoice. Lo, he speaks all condemnation ending, every true desire with love's will blending. Losing self, in him we find joy, health, hope for all mankind. Number 73. I'll read from the Bible and from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The topic of this evening's readings is communication. The Bible. Proverbs. The preparations of the heart in man and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. Exodus. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. 1 Samuel. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli. And the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. And it came to pass at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel. And he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou calledst me. And he said, I called not, lie down again. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again, Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called not, my son, lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. 1 Kings. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baken on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. And he came thither into a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Go forth, and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rock before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. Psalms. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Matthew. And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in the synagogues. And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I unto them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Isaiah. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thine house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy rearward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord will answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. I'll now read correlative passages from the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, by Mary Baker Eddy. According to Christian Science, the only real senses of man are spiritual, emanating from divine mind. Thought passes from God to man, but neither sensation nor report goes from material body to mind. The intercommunication is always from God to his idea, man. The soul-inspired patriarchs heard the voice of truth and talked with God as consciously as man talks with man. The Hebrew lawgiver, slow of speech, despaired of making the people understand what should be revealed to him. When, led by wisdom to cast down his rod, he saw it become a serpent, Moses fled before it. But wisdom bade him come back and handle the serpent. And then Moses' fear departed. In this incident was seen the actuality of science. Matter was shown to be a belief only. The serpent, evil under wisdom's bidding, was destroyed through understanding divine science, and this proof was a staff upon which to lean. The illusion of Moses lost its power to alarm him when he discovered that what he apparently saw was really but a phase of mortal belief. It was scientifically demonstrated that leprosy was a creation of mortal mind and not a condition of matter when Moses first put his hand into his bosom and drew it forth white as snow with the dread disease, and presently restored his hand to its natural condition by the same simple process. God had lessened Moses' fear by this proof in divine science, and the inward voice became to him the voice of God, which said, It shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And so it was in the coming centuries when the science of being was demonstrated by Jesus, who showed his students the power of mind by changing water into wine, and taught them how to handle serpents unharmed, to heal the sick and cast out evils in proof of the supremacy of mind. When understanding changes the standpoints of life and intelligence from a material to a spiritual basis, we shall gain the reality of life, the control of soul over sense, and we shall perceive Christianity or truth in its divine principle. This must be the climax before harmonious and immortal man is obtained and his capabilities revealed. It is highly important, in view of the immense work to be accomplished before this recognition of divine science can come, to turn our thoughts towards divine principle, that finite belief may be prepared to relinquish its error. The effects of Christian Science are not so much seen as felt. It is the still, small voice of truth uttering itself. We are either turning away from this utterance, or we are listening to it and going up higher. Willingness to become as a little child and to leave the old for the new renders thought receptive of the advanced idea, gladness to leave the false landmarks, and joy to see them disappear. This disposition helps to precipitate the ultimate harmony. The purification of sense and self is a proof of progress. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. A Christian Scientist occupies the place at this period of which Jesus spake to his disciples when he said, "Ye are the salt of the earth. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on an hill cannot be hid. Let us watch, work, and pray that this salt lose not its saltness, and that this light be not hid, but radiate and glow into noontide glory." The infinite truth of the Christ cure has come to this age through a still, small voice, through silent utterances and divine anointing, which quicken and increase the beneficial effects of Christianity. I long to see the consummation of my hope, namely, the students' higher attainments in this line of light. A Christian Scientist requires my work, Science and Health, for his textbook, and so do all his students and patients. Why? First, because it is the voice of truth to this age and contains the full statement of Christian Science, or the science of healing through mind. Second, because it was the first book known containing a thorough statement of Christian Science. Hence, it gave the first rules for demonstrating this science and registered the revealed truth uncontaminated by human hypotheses. Other works which have borrowed from this book without giving it credit have adulterated the science. Third, because this book has done more for teacher and student, for healer and patient, than has been accomplished by other books. The still small voice of scientific thought reaches over continent and ocean to the globe's remotest bound. The inaudible voice of truth is, to the human mind, as when a lion roareth. It is heard in the desert and in dark places of fear. It arouses the seven thunders of evil and stirs their latent forces to utter the full diapason of secret tones. Then is the power of truth demonstrated, made manifest in the destruction of error. Then will a voice from harmony cry, "Go and take the little book, take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey." Mortals, obey the heavenly evangel. Take divine science. Read this book from beginning to end. Study it. Ponder it. Angels are not etherealized human beings evolving animal qualities in their wings, but they are celestial visitants, flying on spiritual, not material pinions. Angels are pure thoughts from God, winged with truth and love, no matter what their individualism may be. Human conjecture confers upon angels its own forms of thought, marked with superstitious outlines, making them human creatures with suggestive feathers. But this is only fancy. It has behind it no more reality than the sculptor's thought when he carves his Statue of Liberty, which embodies his conception of an unseen quality or condition, but which has no physical antecedent reality, save in the artist's own observation and chambers of imagery. My angels are exalted thoughts appearing at the door of some sepulchre in which human belief has buried its fondest earthly hopes. With white fingers, they point upward into a new and glorified trust to higher ideals of life and its joys. Angels are God's representatives. These upward soaring beings never lead towards self, sin, or materiality, but guide to the divine principle of all good, whither every real individuality, image, or likeness of God gathers. By giving earnest heed to these spiritual guides, they tarry with us, and we entertain angels unawares. Let's pray together silently for a few moments, and then pray aloud together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 49. 49. Dear Lord and Father of us all, forgive our foolish ways. Reclothe us in our rightful mind. In purer lives thy service find. In deeper reverence, praise. Number 49. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the First Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 a.m. and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 p.m. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 12 noon and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. All services are held in person and online, and all are welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes in person and online for children and teens. These free one-hour classes are available each Sunday at Sunday school. Students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of prayer. For more information on times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. First Church of Christ Scientist, Hartford, Connecticut, is sponsoring an online and in-person talk on Sunday, March 30th, this coming Sunday, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Julia Nezzi-Tetro, CSB, will address the subject, A Spiritual Revolution, the Quest to Experience God. Childcare will be provided. For those attending in person, traveling by train or bus, the church is about 2 miles from Hartford's Union Station. For those driving, there's ample parking space at the church. The talk will be streamed live on www.christiansciencehartford.com. In addition, a recording of the talk will be posted on the website through May 30th. The members of this church invite you to an evening of inspiration, Good Friday, April 18th at 7:30 p.m. Brian Webster will speak on the topic, Our Walk to Emmaus. Organ music will begin at 7:20 p.m. The talk will take place in the church edifice at 583 Park Avenue at 63rd Street. Child care will be provided. The talk will be streamed live on our website with simultaneous Spanish translation. After the talk, you are invited to remain for a question and answer session with Brian Webster. Replays in English and Spanish are available of this church's Christmas Eve talk by Bobby Lewis, a Christian Science practitioner, on the topic, Make Room at the Inn. Please visit our website, thirdchurchnyc.com. Other inspirational talks are also available on the website. This meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you're listening by telephone and would like to speak, press *6 and wait until your line is unmuted. Please speak directly into the microphone of your phone. Your message will be easier to hear if you don't use the speaker function. And to avoid feedback, please have only one device on at a time. If you're watching via Zoom, you can choose the raise your hand icon or unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, thank you very much for those lovely readings. And I was thinking this week, that came to me, talking about communications, that these Wednesday evening meetings are really workshops. That's what they are. I mean, we come and hear the lesson on Sunday, and we have a lesson tonight, but they're workshops where we go and see what we've done during the last week, and then what we're going to be doing the next week. It's just like if you were to take some kind of a seminar or go to a seminar, you break off into workshops. This is a workshop in which we can see what we've been doing and what we've used to try to work out our situations and go forward. And in that regard, this week, and with the topic tonight, angel messages, and yes, so many of the citations tonight about science and health is the voice of truth to this age, she tells us, and pointed out. And I was looking at Science and Health this week, and you read it, it's just like good classical music. You listen to Todd's organ playing, and you can hear the thing over and over many times, but you always get something more out of it because there's something you don't see before. Well, it's the same thing with science and health. I've been reading it all my life. And then I look at this and I said, I never saw that before. And this week particularly, I was studying in much the chapter practice, but the subchapter mental treatment illustrated. And I looked there, and the word jumped off the page was a sentence which said that bones have the substance of thought. And I thought, my word. And then I looked through the rest of that subsection, and I saw thought going through the whole thing. And I realized the key to mental treatment is thought. We're dealing with thought. Maybe it's material thought or replacing it with spiritual thought, but it was all about a lot about thought. And then other things like, I remember when I was growing up in Sunday school, just sitting on these little chairs when I was just a kid. And the teachers used to say that sin is believing there's a power other than God. That was their definition of sin. And I thought, well, sure, I guess so. But this week, I'm studying science and health. And sure enough, I realized why they had said that, because if you as you look at science and health, it says it's talking about the allness of God. And if we believe there's something besides, outside that's sin. And I could see it so clearly. How could I have read this all my life and not have seen this, even given it to me as a child? Well, anyhow, I had an opportunity this week to actually put this into practice. I had overindulged again, and Mrs. Eddy talks about gluttony as a sensual illusion, and I had not been obedient. And I had broken not a law of matter, but a law of mortal mind. And therefore, I was suffering terribly. But I just stayed with the truth this week. I mean, I'm sure if anybody who was medically minded saw my condition, they would have called 911. But I stayed with the truth. When the illusion of sickness or sin tempts you, cling steadfastly to God and His idea. Allow nothing but His likeness to abide in your thought. Let neither fear nor doubt overshadow your clear sense and calm trust that the recognition of life harmonious as life eternally is can destroy any painful sense of or belief in that which life is not. Let Christian science instead of corporeal sense support your understanding of being, and this understanding will supplant every truth, replace mortality with immortality, and silence discord with harmony. And I just stayed with that, the scientific statement of being. And it lifted. It just lifted. So this truth is practical. Truth is our medicine. Mind is our medicine, and the truth that we give. And I'm very grateful for this healing this week. I have to do a better job on not overindulging, and I have to rise higher. But maybe with this new idea of sin being simply a denial of the allness of God, that's so clear. It's more responsive. It's so clear that that's exactly what we have to deal with here, because she says the Christian scientific treatment's based on the scripture, the Lord is God good and there's none beside Him. And that all is harmony, therefore, because sin is simply discord. It's believing there's two. So I'm very grateful for this healing this week and for your beautiful readings tonight and all that Mrs. Eddy's given us. This is the voice of truth. It's the book that's in the hand of the angel. It's really there, and all I have to do whenever I'm down and out, I was even feeling a little depressed this week, I just pick up the book, Science and Health, and boom, it just lifts you. It's the voice of truth right in our hands, and she's given it to us for our services, for our lessons, and it's a wonderful gift. So.
Thank you.
the previous testimony mentioned Mrs. Addy speaking about the substance of bones is thought. And I've had several demonstrations with practitioner help to prove the truth of that statement and the utility of Christian Science theology in healing. About a year ago, I was cleaning the house and I wasn't paying attention, and I kind of fell onto a toe in a particular way, and it hurt quite a bit. And I thought, I don't know if I've broken this toe or not, but it did impede moving about. And so the next morning, I was very busy in that period of time, and I called the practitioner around 8:30. I usually try to let them have a little bit of rest until 9, but I called around 8:30, saying I've got to leave the house at 9, and I think I've broken a toe, but it's swollen and it's black and blue and blah blah blah. And I said, I'm working with the fact that there's no accident, so therefore an accident cannot harm me. And she said, well, of course you can't be harmed if there is no such thing in divine providence of anything but the government of divine providence. It's a short call. I went on my way throughout the day, and it did not have one vestige of complaint. The bruising lasted for a few days, but there was no problem. The same happened once, twice before, where the bruising was quite severe, and I called a practitioner the following day, and I was able to walk on that toe, on that foot. One night, it was New Year's Eve after church, and I had either stubbed my toe or broken it because I could put absolutely no weight on that foot. And it got worse when I looked at the foot. And around midnight, I called the practitioner, and she said, oh dear, it's all right. She said, I'm just up working. There was nothing left of the evidence the following day. This is the same practitioner who healed a broken finger. I was at the very end of working in summer stock in the West, in the West. And during a volleyball game, the ball came down on my finger in not a good way. And when I got home, I worked with a practitioner, and the pain subsided certainly, but there was really no improvement. And she said, you really must go and get your finger x-rayed and perhaps have a splint on it if after 3 days the finger doesn't straighten up. So I went to the hospital, and the doctor said, well, we could do surgery, but it's broken off, and there's really not much we can do about it, whatever. That night I called a practitioner with whom I had worked, the practitioner that helped me on New Year's Eve. And I told her, and she said, oh dear, she said, I've had broken bones heal even before the patient got to the doctors. I said, oh, okay, great. She was in New York. And I had worked with her about 3 or 4 years previous and had a very dramatic evidence of her work. And so I hung up the phone, and I think I continued. I had just had class instruction about a year previous. And I continued to work with the various citations. And within 3 or 4 minutes, I felt this funny, fuzzy feeling in that finger, in that bone, which was knitting back together. So I would call that an instantaneous healing. And certainly I have not had an instantaneous healing in every case in which I've worked for a healing, but I was happy for that one, and it stands out to me many, many years later. Thank you for the reading.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you for your readings. I'm Jack Phillips I'm in Delaware right now. Oh, no, I'm not. In Maryland. I'm driving on 95. And I wanted to, when you read something about Moses having to handle the serpent, I thought of two times when I was, in my life, when I had to handle a serpent. The first time is when I was 12, and the family suffered a big loss. And my dad came home from work and he started drinking alcohol. He had never drunk alcohol before, and it was a big disappointment for me as a 12-year-old, because in the evenings we would always have wonderful talks about things, and when he was drunk we couldn't really have those talks. So I, now looking back, I call it the gift of alcoholism because it enabled me to handle that serpent and not be impressed by alcoholism. And my dad and I eventually became very good friends, and I was grateful. And then, you know, fast forward to my present day life, I now have a 12-year-old son, and lately he's been acting very aggressively towards me, and we haven't really had a very harmonious relationship. And I've been really praying about it, and desperately praying, because for the first 12 years we had a wonderful harmonious relationship, and never a bad thing, you know, happened. So I had to take him up to New Jersey this week, and he had to be in some tennis tournaments. And while he was in his instruction periods, I would just sit in the car, and I would mark my lesson, or I would work on a game for Science and Health that I've been working on. And one of the questions that I wrote down, I thought I had finished the book about this game called Prayer Game, but I discovered that some of the files had disappeared, so I had to redo them. And one of the chapters I had to redo was called Christian Science versus Spiritualism. And while I was studying, I discovered something I don't think I'd ever seen before, although I must have, although I don't remember, but that that the name of the Supreme Being. What is the name of the Supreme Being? It's on page 92 of Science and Health. And I thought, wow, I never saw that. So what's God's name? It's kind of funny to me because I never saw it. And Mrs. Eddy says that Spirit, as a proper noun, is the name for the Supreme Being. It's right there on page 92. That was just so inspiring to me. And after I had spent about 4 hours on the lesson and on this game, my son came out, and for the rest of the week we had a really wonderful, harmonious time together. And I thought about how my dad many years ago must have really had to pray about me being so on me. So anyway, I'm very grateful to be able to attend your service tonight at 583 Park Avenue, 63rd, I think. And I'm very grateful to my friend who gave me the number and the ID. And thank you so much again for your readings.
Thank you.
Thank you for your readings. A few years ago, several years ago, my wife and I saw a play. And it was, the actor gave a monologue and said that we all have in our pocket two messages. In the one pocket, it says, we're not worth anything. We're really bad. Nothing good is going to happen to us. And the other pocket is a message that says, we're terrific. And we're just all good and wonderful and have a wonderful future ahead. And thought is supposed to bounce between those pockets and those messages. I'm very grateful in Christian Science that the message in the right pocket that says we're terrific is the more truthful message. Why? Because we look to God, and man is the reflection. And God is terrific. That's sort of the definition of God. All knowing, all seeing, all acting, all wise, omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, knowing all. And that man is the reflection of God. And this has practical significance on almost a daily basis. When I start my day by laying out priorities. And the thought of embracing the day, we all have that wonderful hymn about this is the day the Lord hath made, be glad and rejoice. Give thanks, be glad and rejoice. And in thinking about the day and what's to be accomplished, and I to see my peers and what they're doing, and that the message in the left pocket starts to vibrate. With foundation, with spiritual foundation, I claim that reflection, being the reflection of God and having all the right ideas, with the expectancy of the right communications of what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And knowing that is not a material self, that's not a mortal, that's the immortal, the reflection. It's a very humble position, because it's not that the self is great, but that the identity is perfect. And this orientation, this teaching, this understanding, very helpful, and it overcomes depression, and it gives a spiritual foundation for expecting good. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. And thank you all for your testimonies and prayerful support during this meeting. Let's conclude with singing hymn number 7676. I'll read the whole poem. 2 verses. God is known in loving kindness, God, the true eternal good. Zion, ne'er will he forsake thee. Trust his father motherhood. Can a mother leave her children? Can unchanging love forget? Though all earthly friends betray thee, lo, his arm enfolds thee yet. Every prayer to him is answered, prayer confiding in his will. Blessedness and joy are near thee. Hear his gentle peace, be still. Hear his voice above the tempest. I have not forsaken thee. In my hand thy name is graven. I will save both thine and thee. Hymn number 76.